name is Frederik Stein, and I'll be presenting MWorx and a short walkthrough of the site thus far with a focus on what was discussed this morning regarding the PLM discussions. Cool. So the agenda for this meeting is a quick introduction and rationale for the platform, the customer experience, the supply experience, a live demo, and what our rollout process looks like. Cool. So the objectives of the platform, as we determined it by speaking to quite a few suppliers, was that all of them more or less experience the same type of issues. On the left-hand side, they are outlined as the suppliers having typically uninformed customers with regard to additive manufacturing technologies. They have fragmented and unstructured information flows, no traceability or visibility in their process due to unstructured information flows. And because of all of those problems, it leads to a lack of business scalability. Now, the end effect that causes is basically just a lack of an audit trail and wasted man hours trying to deal with the unstructured data or dealing with the clients. And what the platform aims to provide is to firstly provide the suppliers with informed customers, reducing the amount of man hours that you have to spend dealing with your customers, to keep a single source of part and related information. This is what we call the one truth, and we will see that in the live demonstration explicitly. Due to the one truth, we have the capability to track every set of information in the platform from cradle to grave, and specifically to standardize and automate your processes. Based on the research that we did by speaking to quite a few suppliers, we have identified more or less what their average process looks like from the start to the finish. It typically starts with an email or phone call and jumps between Dropbox, local storage, or some kind of memory stick transferring files. Now, due to all of that, there's a lot of unstructured information, and the client and the supplier might both have different versions of the file, and it ends up wasting a lot of your man hours. Now, due to this entire process, there is no lifecycle management, and it requires manual feedback from the client to the supplier. Now, ideally, the suppliers would like to have a digital thread. However, we found that they are closer actually to digital spaghetti. We aim to resolve that problem. We have identified what we like to call the thin blue line, which is an overall workflow that guides the entire platform from start to finish. It starts with request and terms, moves over to validation, quotation, order, manufacturing, check invoice, collection, and closure. Now, throughout this entire process, proper business process management principles and PLM principles are applied, exiting the platform only at predefined points to your slicer or your ERP. Now, throughout this entire process, feedback is sent to the customer at the right point to ensure that they know exactly where their stuff is in your system. So in order for us to manage that thin blue line, we created two distinct experiences for MWorx. The customer experience, in this case, someone needing to print a part or manufacture a part, and the supply experience, which is a guy with the actual machinery to do it. Now, the client experience, we just have some screenshots here for how that might look. We will see it more in detail in the live demonstration. So yeah, we have a dedicated website for the customers, enabling a direct link to their supplier and their internal systems, showing the client exactly what the supplier is able to offer him. There is no longer a client asking you in repeated emails, do you offer this, do you offer that? Can you do this for me? Can you do that? You simply set it up to allow the client to see that information on the click of a button. Onto the supply experience. This is where we will be focusing on the live demo specifically. Now, the supply experience is a web-based, cloud-hosted environment, the same as the client experience. However, what this gives the suppliers is basically all the business objects in the platform are managed in a holistic manner. This ensures that there is no duplication of data, and version control of files is handled as well. We have traceability and history of all actions and items created and managed in the platform. And all data is rather easily accessible through search tools and linking. Access to the platform is defined per role, per supplier, and per customer. What that essentially means is that you can define exactly how your company hierarchy works. Who is allowed to see what information at what point in the overall workflow. To further expand on the workflows, something we are very proud at MWorx is our business process management of the workflows in themselves. Here on the right-hand side, we can see three distinct workflows. The first two are a quoting workflow that is included in the baseline process of MWorx, as well as an order workflow. However, you as a supplier will not be limited to using exactly this. This is simply a baseline process of how we saw it based on the discussions we had with suppliers. Your process can entirely be configured here. Now, when moving from one node to another through the workflow, a workflow history report gets created, capturing exactly who did what, when, and where. Now, again, that is completely configurable by you based on your employee and company structure. Our workflow engine allows for an infinite amount of custom workflows, allowing you truly unprecedented control over your business. Here we have what we call the production control and monitoring module. Now, this links directly into the order workflow, specifically the manufacturing section of the thin blue line. For example, in this process, in the manufacturing process, we might have some planning, then printing, cleaning the part, removing it, sanding, dyeing, and then inspection. However, the process is not simply limited to this. For example, under printing, you might have sub-processes. For example, cleaning the bed, loading the data, etc. Now, in MWorx, we capture all this information and allow you to keep track of it, of versioning linked to that, and any documentation that might be linked to that process specifically. Any additional data can be stored wherever you need it, and it is linked directly to these sub-processes. Now, what this allows you to do is basically set up your company and its processes to allow you to form the basis for certification, especially in highly controlled industries like aviation, medical, and nuclear. If you would like to see a more in-detail discussion regarding the production and control monitoring, you can simply contact us at info@mworx.ai, and we can do a thorough walkthrough of this specific module, as it requires some significant investment in time to go through it. So before we start with the live demonstration, does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Yeah, I'll take that as a no and move on to the live demo. Cool. So firstly, we will show the client experience. This is the logon website, and we will log in as Baba today. Now, this is the first page your client will see, called the dashboard, showing them a quick overview of the status of all their quotes and orders, and in which area of the life cycle the orders or the quotes reside. Now, let's start with an instant quote, how a client might request something from the supplier. Simply add a part from here. Let's choose that one. Just to confirm, can everyone see the Chrome browser open? I'm going to assume that's a yes. Cool. Now from here, we allow the client to choose exactly what he needs For example, you will choose metal and then subclass titanium. Now this is directly linked to what you as the supplier set up. So the client cannot request something that you simply do not offer. And it is not limited in any way, it's simply limited by your imagination. So we set up our request like this, and we simply add the file to the basket. Now from here, you can add additional files, having a multi-file quote. But what MWorx allows you to do as well is to add supplementary documentation on a part level or on a quote level. In this case, we will add a document to the part level. Now, for example, that might be either your load data or some sort of tolerance or specification document. And this is entirely dependent on the client, but it allows you as the supplier to access this linked information quite easily, ensuring that you and the client have only one source of the truth. The document is added, and as a quote level, you can add a document as well. For example, shipping instructions for all the different parts. Now from here, simply submit the quote with a title. Let's call it a titanium riser, and we would like it to have it delivered next week. So we submit. The file then gets uploaded to the system, and once it is done, it shows up instantly in the supply screen. After this is uploaded, we will move over to the supply screen, and then you will see the quote as it is created there. We have now created quote 1340. Once we close here, the website should take us over to the client quote manager, showing exactly where his quote is. It is currently in the verification status. Now this gets updated as the part moves along in the supply process, allowing the client exactly to see where his stuff is. From here, you might get a drop down if you had multiple files. And we will stop on the client experience here for now. We will now move over to the supplier side. So this is how the login would look for the supplier. Currently, we are logging in as Ace Molifi. He is the MD of the company. Cool. So the first screen we see here is the in-basket. Now, if the platform is set up correctly and all the employees trained, this is mostly where they will spend their time. However, it might not be as a full inbox as we currently have, because we are now logged in as the MD, which has access to all the different roles. We will get to the different roles soon. You can see here at the bottom that quote 1340 has been added. From here, we can simply open it to see any information that was linked, that was created by the client. From here, you can simply access any documents that they uploaded. On the quote level, we did not upload anything, but on the part level, simply open the part, see any data linked to that, any CAD files, any number of CAD files in any format, and any documents explicitly linked to this part. It seems that they didn't actually upload the part document. But anyway, so this is how the quote is created. Now, if we move over to the workflow, as was showed in the presentation, cool. So here's the workflow that is linked directly to quotes. Now, again, this is entirely customizable by the supplier, and this is part of our baseline process. We are currently in the basic review stage, and from here you can proceed to check file, amend request, which sends it back to the client with whatever comment you may have. For example, the file is corrupt or the document does not make sense, or you can simply cancel the quote. We allow full ownership of the data by both parties, allowing anyone to stop the process if they feel uncomfortable or they no longer wish to proceed. Now from here, we would like to, for argument's sake, move over to check file. Now, in order to do that, we go back to our quote, to the workflow sign-off. We showed that in the presentation as well. And currently, we can see that basic review is assigned to ACE 3D sales. Now, that is a role specifically defined in this company to that part of the workflow. If I can just go back to the workflow, we will see that basic review is linked with the sales department. Check file might be linked to the design department, and prepare quote back again at sales. Now, when setting up the platform, you can simply provide us with a list of exactly who you want linked to which roles and which roles you might want. We do have, again, a baseline process set up for you in that regard. So from here, we can now proceed with the workflow. Simply click on Vote Now, and our workflow activity completion pops up. Now this is our baseline process and is completely configurable by you as well. Now in order for us to move from basic review over to check file, we have a checklist that needs to be completed. Check if the customer's account is on hold, check if all the related information, all the necessary information is there, and that the file type is actually supported. From here, you choose to which area of the workflow you would like to proceed, or you can cancel and delegate it to another employee. I'll now go to check file. Cool. So now we can see that the person, Ace Malifi, voted to go to check file. It now lies in the design department. Because I am logged in as Ace and I have access to all the roles, I am actually allowed to vote on this. However, if I was a person strictly assigned to the sales role and not the design role, I would not be able to actually vote on this. So this again allows you to segregate the information flows in your company to only the relevant people. From here, we're going to check just one more, and then we proceed on to orders. Cool. Again, this checklist is entirely customizable by you to capture the process as you have it. And we will complete. Cool. Now, again, it is updated. And from here, we can actually go back to the client side now on the web page. Simply update. We will see now that quote 1314 is actually in the quoting stage. So again, this allows the client to see exactly where his stuff is in your system without you needing to directly contact them or they you. Cool. So I won't be taking this quote entirely through the process. However, we will show a quick image of what the order workflow might look like. Now, what we enabled in the platform, specifically when completing a quote, is allowing the supplier to choose his form of payment as a baseline process, either pay before shipping, pay before manufacturing, or pay within 30 days. However, this again is completely customizable by you. Currently, this order that we opened is awaiting shipment. And I will not go through this workflow explicitly as it is identical in operation to the quotes. Before I proceed further, are there any questions or comments from the audience? Cool, I think we can proceed. Now here on the left-hand side, we have what we call the table of contents, and it includes a variety of menus. Let's start from the top. We have the design, which links all the parts that your clients have submitted to you and any related documentation to it. We have processes and routings as discussed briefly in the production control and monitoring. I'll get back to processes shortly. We have any CAD documents or documents. However, in our opinion, it's easier to access them through parts, but you can manage it exactly as you want. These documents do not only include part documents from clients. It might include internal documentation on how to, for example, operate your machinery. Under facilities, we have employees, your company, the employees, the materials, and the work centers. Now, work centers is a concept that needs to be explained. It is not necessarily a place where you have to manufacture. It is any center where work has to be done. For example, it might be signing off documentation at a specific desk or with a specific person. It might be deburring, it might be painting, it might be printing, or a simple CNC machine. Whatever you need in your process is set up here as a work center. Then we have the production tab that will be explained in a separate detailed meeting. And then the sales, which is a segregated version of the in-basket with slightly more detail should you need it. So in the work centers, you can quickly open this. And we can see here the work centers are classified. In this particular order, we have additive manufacturing, FDM, SLM, SLS, SLA for this company. And then we have our dyeing station, grinding, painting, and inspection station. Now, it is important to note this is the baseline that we set up for this demo, and your company might not look exactly like this. It might have more granularity or less. If you simply need 2 work centers to operate your business, then so be it. If you need 50, we can set that up as well. The platform allows for all of that. So the start of the digital twin basically begins here at the work center. Now go back to the materials. Here you can upload all your materials. Now, again, this is linked to the work center specifically. You can't, for example, use titanium powder on your FDM printer because it is simply not linked that way, which means the customer on the front end cannot accidentally choose that option, creating a lot of admin for you and having to deal with the client, with the uninformed clients, as we determined earlier. Now, from here, we can add, again, anything that you would need linked to your work centers. You might add dyes, you might add sanding paper, or even drill bits if you need to. We'll now just, for argument's sake, open the titanium. And any related information, again, can be linked to this specific material. Any documents linked to this batch, for example, can be uploaded and managed here with versioning, the same as every other document space in the platform. Nothing uploaded here, but it allows you to. On this material, we can see a process is defined. I will get to that shortly. There's a rather large part of the digital twin of your company is basically setting up the start of everything. From there, we help you to define your processes. As our slogan of MWorx says, stabilize, automate, innovate, accelerate. But the first step is to stabilize. Just because the system can do complex processes does not mean that you need those complex processes right now. Firstly, stabilizing your current system and your current processes is our top priority. For processes, for example, as shown in the presentation, you can define whatever you need. For example, printing in titanium or aluminum might be a process. Drying and curing might be a process, or you could simply reduce the granularity and say finishing. The entire process is finishing, and that is linked to a specific work center with materials available to that specific work center. Now, these processes form the basis of routings, which forms the basis of our production and control module, but I will not go into that specifically today. So that is more or less how we set up the digital twin and allow you to directly interact with your customers and manage your workflows and roles in your company. Any questions before I continue on with the presentation?
Hello, Frederick. This is Nico, CRPM. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you have a specific question in mind?
Yes, I have a specific question in mind. It's about that process whereby you get a part from the client and then you verify it. After verification and design approval and all that, there's that part for quotation. So like to ask, is it possible to prepare a quotation inside your software, or do we have to prepare it on another platform and then bring it back into this one before we send it back to the client?
Yes. Yes, it is. Once we prepare I just did not do it in this demo to save time and move on with the other stuff. But yes, you prepare the quote in the platform itself at the quoting stage, and it sends off an email to the client with all the related information they might need, as well as updating it on this side. Now, once you do the quotation and send it back to the client can then use this tab here, requiring action. A price then gets sent back with this quotation stating, well, exactly what you decided on the price might be. And from here, you can either accept or decline the quote, and the payment can then be set up from there. So this effectively turns the quotation into an order, and it gets updated in your system near instantly.
So maybe just to add to that, this is you obviously you upload your stationery, which is your logo, your header, your address, your VAT details, everything in the system, and the customer receives an email with a PDF attached, which is exactly your quotation in the format that you would normally send. And then that is exactly the same quotation that's attached to his interface, where he can then accept or decline it.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Any other questions before we move on back to the presentation? Cool. Cool. So just to sum up what the key features of the platform are in this quick presentation that we did. So that for business process management, we have comprehensive visual workflows, product and item life cycles, role assignment, a voting system, task checklist, and a production control and management system. We also provide the clients with a simplified front end and providing them with real-time feedback linked directly to your system. We also have a dedicated development and support team available to both clients and suppliers. The platform is also the custodian of the one truth, ensuring complete data synchronization between parties and following the overall single workflow, which is the thin blue line. We are also responsible for ensuring data security and integrity and keeping all backups and user access control under control.
I think if Frederick can maybe just go back to there, because I think we got a small enough audience to explain this. This is all web-based, HTML5 based, so there's no need to install any software on any machine. So you can run it from home, from any premises, on your tablet, everything, it will work. I think the part of the benefit is here, you don't have to procure any infrastructure. You just need a stable and fast internet connection. So all the systems, the server, the SQL databases, all that licensing is included in the subscription. There's no additional cost to that. So at the end of the day, you don't have to worry about the salaries for the IT guys, for the backup and recovery, for the hardware infrastructure to host this, because you would need at least 2 servers, one for a web environment and one for the application environment and one for a SQL environment. So it takes all that infrastructure. So essentially, it's also infrastructure as a service, as well as software as a service, as well as business processes as a service. And it's all rolled into a single hosted subscription. And you can move your shop without having to set up any new infrastructure. And zero impact to you.
So regarding our pilot rollout process, our pilot rollout typically takes somewhere between 13 and 20 hours, depending on complexity of the supplier and the availability of all parties. It takes that long for a couple of reasons. We need to set up all your users, all their roles, capture all the work centers, all the materials and the processes, as well as the routings. Now, we found that typically it takes that long simply because most suppliers do not have full visibility of their processes at this point in time. And that is what we aim to solve by stabilizing and visualizing your current system. We also have access to a quality system self-audit, which is part of a competition that we are launching. I will explain that at the end. Our pricing structure currently is $350 for a setup fee, And from there, it is $990 per month. However, should you proceed with from the pilot into a subscription, that $350 setup fee gets added to your first month's payment. The cost of custom workflows and custom processes will be scoped on an individual basis, and that is something that will typically be determined during rollout, during the pilot rollout. And something that is very important to notice here is that MWorx does not limit you on the amount of users at all. It is very important for us to be able to move over exactly the process as you see it and as you manage your company at this point in time. For Abdasa specifically, our first 3 pilot rollouts will be waiving the setup fee, and the best responding supplier of all those who signed up will receive a free external audit. Now, this might include whatever ISO you would need in the aviation, medical, or nuclear space. So if you have any questions, please voice them here, or you can simply visit us at MWorx.ai or send us an email at info@MWorx.ai. You can also, with your phone, capture the QR on the screen and get a downloadable sheet with a bit of the facts about the platform. So with that said, any questions from the audience?
Frederick, I might have a quick question for you.
Sure.
I would just like to ask, is there any way of communicating with your clients via email or perhaps an SMS or something with your program, within the program actually?
Yes, we have a rudimentary chat set up that allows you to speak directly to the client from your supplier side to their client side. And we are moving to a Twilio-based chat system in the very near future.
I think specific, if it is to a quotation or an invoice, is when you do your voting and there's a query that goes back to your customer, that is one method to communicate directly on the specific transaction. So you put in the comment field what you need from the customer, and when you vote on it and submit, it actually updates the website as well as it sends an email to the customer to say that the query has been sent back to him. And then he can obviously then reply back to you via email, and you can make the adjustments, or he actually should be going through the user interface to upload the additional documents you need or to give you an answer. So within that voting session, it also forwards an email to your customer.
Oh, okay, thanks, perfect. Yeah.
Frederick, Johan Els here from CRPM. Thank you very much. This was really very informative. I really like what I see from the software. I would maybe just request from my side that somewhere perhaps in next week or so, if me and you and Gary perhaps can have a quick discussion, even if it's a quick Zoom call, just regarding the quality side of the software, and you know, all of that's what's involved on that side, and I would like to share with you, you know, our typical need and how it's what we kind of expect from this kind of software, and if that's, you know, a possibility at the moment. So just from my side, if we can have at some point during next week just a quick discussion around that, I would appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. Johan Els, it's Johan Pretorius, yeah. So yes, Frederick will set up something with you guys, and I think it's very important, and maybe for the rest of the audience as well, is that this is the power of MWorx. It's not limited to what is already demonstrated in today's session. It is really about what your process is and what your needed is. It's configurable to that. And that is exactly why our rollout takes a couple of hours, is to really understand your expectations out of the system and make sure that we understand those processes. And if it's a quality process, we can configure that process for you. Eventually, we want to get to a point where you can actually configure the system yourself, but you'll have to grow in it, and it's obvious skills that need to be carried over. But it does have that flexibility in it, and that's what makes it so unique. So I think definitely it is possible. Set up the meeting, have the discussion, look at the expectations, And then if we have that process, we can create that process flow.
Great. Oh, Johan, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. I'm looking forward to that.
Perfect.
Does anyone else have a question for us? Or just a statement in general?
Yeah, I think maybe just again in the chat line, just send out your email address, Frederick, for everyone who would like to get a link of the recording of this session so that we can make it available, and it should be available either today or Monday earliest. And you just drop a mail to Frederick and we will send you a link to this session's recording.
Cool. Hope everyone can find it in the chat. 2 emails there. The info is the general one and f.stain is my personal one. And I will be able to hopefully answer any further questions you might have or set up a more detailed presentation.
Yeah, maybe on the, just a note on that, if you go on the MWorx.ai website, you can subscribe there for our newsletter, which will be sending out any information that's of relevance and importance. And then also you join our club just by getting the info needed. Perfect.
Well, thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And yeah, if you guys have any more questions, simply drop us a mail and we will answer as well as we can.
Thank you very much, Frederick. Have a good weekend, you guys.
Thank you. Same for you guys.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Wacht even, iets moet je